starting us off at number 10 is the death of Alonzo Brooks. And this one comes straight from Unsolved Mysteries, and it's a case that really pissed me off. 22-year-old Alonzo and his friends went to a party in rural Kansas that was about an hour's drive from their hometown. Now keep in mind, this is rural Kansas, the mentality is different, and the party was full of Hicks and Alonzo was the only black man there. Racial slurs were thrown around, and one by one his friends left the party thinking one of the other friends would be dropping Alonzo home. The next day his mum woke to find Alonzo still not home. She called all of his friends and no one could get a hold of him. After getting the sheriff involved and multiple search investigations taking place, Alonzo was nowhere to be found. A month after his disappearance, his family and friends were finally allowed to search themselves, and within 10 minutes they found Alonzo's body in a creek. He had been murdered in a hate crime, and this is supported by many people from that rural town writing in comments like they know whose house Alonzo's body was stored in, they know who killed him, or that they'll never reveal the names. However, after the reboot of the show, many tips have come in about the cases, and Alonzo's could be the first one to get solved. Actual names of the perpetrators have been forwarded to the FBI, which has caused the case to become reopened. Let's get those shitheads.
Coming in at number 9, we have the Death Valley Sailing Stones. This is a mystery that immediately had everyone thinking aliens or ghosts, or some people even thought that gnomes could be involved with this. If you don't know, Death Valley is famous for having rocks that seem to sail across the ground on their own. They will leave little trails behind to make it look like the rocks are moving on the ground like giant snails. And even though this was a mystery for years and years, we have gotten to the bottom of it thanks to science. During the winter, Death Valley will become so cold that ice will form underneath these massive rocks. When the sun rises in the morning, this ice will start to melt and become extremely slick. So now it's like the rock is sitting on a giant ice skateboard. Mix that with a little wind or flowing water and the rock will start to slide across the ground, leaving a snail trail like it has been pushed by a ghost. Coming in at number 8, we have the disappearance of Craig Williams. This one is pulled right from the Unsolved Mysteries TV show, and it's absolutely wild. Craig was out on vacation in Colorado. He was with his wife, and one day he decided to do a solo trip. I totally get this. I don't know if you have ever been traveling with someone, but sometimes it can be the most stressful thing that you have ever done together, so it makes sense that they wanted a little break from each other. Well, Craig went for a hike and then he never came back. A search was launched, but he could not be found. Years went by, the episode of Unsolved Mysteries aired, and then it was on reruns, and then Craig saw himself in an episode. Say what? Yeah, Craig saw himself in an episode and realized that he'd been missing but didn't even know. He contacted the people at the show and then he was reunited with his wife. Now, how did this man forget that he had a wife and a life before his mysterious hike? Well, here's what happened. While on his hike, he was attacked by two men who beat him so bad he lost his memory. Seeing himself on TV gave him a flashback and he was able to piece things back together. Coming at number 7, we have the Webdriver Torso. If you're a fan of internet mysteries, then you for sure have heard about this one, and you probably don't by the answer that was given out, but I'm putting it on this list all the same. The Webdriver Torso was a series of videos that started popping up on YouTube. They were extremely strange. They were just a white background and some squares that would pop up. They were usually red and blue, and in these videos there's also some noises. You could hear some beeping that almost sounded like a 1994 dial-up internet connection. The internet was going crazy about this one. People thought it could have been anything from aliens making a YouTube account to try and communicate with us, to some sort of mind control program that was let loose on the public to try and destroy society. Well, some people weren't satisfied with the conspiracy theories and they went digging. Eventually the whole thing was linked back to Big Bad Daddy Google. They had been putting up these videos, but why? They said it was just to test video quality. Is this true? Who knows, but maybe we should just leave this mystery at the status of solved. Coming in at number 6, we have the Bermuda Triangle. When I was a kid, this was considered one of the most mysterious places in the world. Every cartoon made it seem like no plane or boat could make it through this area without crashing into the ocean and vanishing in a way that made it seem like they never existed at all. Every time it happened, it would seem like some sort of mystery storm or alien influence kicked them off course and then sent the people on board to an early grave. And on top of all this, the wreckage from these crashes could very rarely be found. Well, it turns out that the Bermuda Triangle does not have have more wreckage than any other place in the world, and it makes sense that there have been some ships that have gone down in the area because the area is huge and surrounded by 3 major land masses, so there would be a lot of boat and plane traffic. Also, the reason that the wreckage is so hard to find is from the rather strong current that comes from the Gulf. Coming in at number 5, we have the hit and run sleuths. This one isn't that strange of a mystery, but the way that it was solved was pretty crazy, so I had to throw it on this list. If you learn anything from the list we are making today, it's don't mess with Reddit. It would seem that Redditors are quick to use their hive mind abilities to track down whoever wronged someone and make them come to justice. This all started when Redditor Meatheaded wasn't going to let someone get away with a hit and run. They saw someone zoom by and smash into a car, and a piece of the car flew off. It was a headlight. But this headlight belonged to what kind of car? Well, this Redditor took a photo of the headlight and brought it to the Reddit page, "What is this thing?" And the hive mind started to work. It didn't take them long to crack the code. The Redditor took this information and brought it over to the victim, who gave it to the police. They were able to link that info to a brome that was stolen and then track down the person who had stolen the car and committed a few crimes along the way. Coming in at number 4, we have Evil Teddy Ruxpin. Back in the day, there was a talking toy named Teddy Ruxpin. He was so cute and would say a bunch of things that were absolutely adorable, until a few people started reporting that a demonic voice was coming from the toy. What the hell? Why was this happening? Were a few people's toys exposed to a demonic force? No, this was actually just the batteries running low, and it would cause the voice to come out in this deep slow motion fashion. Coming in at number 3, we have Margot Freshwater's breakouts. Here's a wild story. Margot Freshwater is one of the most notorious fugitives in American history. She was arrested and sentenced for murder, but while she was in jail, she was able to escape and head out on the run. While out in the wild, she murdered 2 more people and was on the run for years before she was caught again. She was sentenced again, but this time to a mental hospital where she would escape another time. Then it was seen that she was gone for good. Years of searching went out, but no one could find out where she was, and then she was found with a whole other identity, and she had a family whom she lied to about her past. Coming in at number 2, we have the alien flying rods. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of these alien rods, but they were the center of a pretty intense alien conspiracy. There were rods of light that were videotaped in the sky. Some hardcore alien lovers were convinced that it must be aliens floating around. People were studying this phenomenon, and they thought that if they could get close enough, it would unlock the key to connecting with aliens. But it turns out that the whole thing was just moths. There were large moths that were floating around in the night sky in low light that would reflect off them, and then when you mix in a camera, you would get some slow motion blur, and it would end up looking like little glowing orbs floating through the air. Alright, and coming in at the number 1 spot, we have Shia LaBeouf's flag. Okay, if you ever thought you shouldn't mess around with Reddit, 4chan will come at you even faster, and really they just want to ruin your day for their own entertainment. They will troll you better than anyone has ever trolled before, and this is proof. Back in 2017, after the Trump election, Shia LaBeouf wanted to make a statement to bring people together. He did this through a live stream webcam in New York on the street that said, "He will not divide us." People on 4chan started trolling him, so he moved it to Albuquerque, and people started trolling it again. So he decided he would change it to a flag that was just on the top of a pole with the camera pointed to the sky so no one could find out where this flag was and mess with it. And 4chan started mapping out flight patterns in the background, wind directions, animal noises, and star patterns, and within 1 day they had taken down the flag and replaced it with Trump propaganda. And here's the thing, I don't even think these people are Trump supporters, they just love trolling.
Starting off this countdown, we have Jeanette De Palma. In 1972, a dog was out playing in the forest when it brought a decomposed forearm back to its owners. From there, the search was on for the missing person's body. Turns out that it belonged to a woman named Jeanette De Palma. She was missing for 6 weeks, but eventually the rest of her body was found on top of a cliff. Now, what's weird is that the area surrounding her body was covered with occult symbols. Rumor has it that she was sacrificed by cult members or killed for pissing off Satan worshippers. But sadly, police couldn't determine the cause of death due to her badly decomposed body. So not only do we not know her cause of death, we also don't know why she was killed or by who.
Coming in at number 9, who stood on the lettuce? 4chan will tell you. You know what? People messing with other people's food is actually really low. Call it a prank, call it what you want, but clearly if you do this kind of thing, you're a bit of a dick. Anyway, in 2012, an anonymous 4chan user uploaded an image of them standing in the serving trays of lettuce at Burger King with their shoes on. They wrote, "This is the lettuce you eat at Burger King." Gross. Honestly, I think shoes on is possibly even grosser than barefoot. Discuss. What do you think? Like, feet are, you know, feet, but shoes carry outside dirt, and what if a person had stepped in dog poop or something? Honestly, I certainly wouldn't want to eat at the Burger King that this is happening at, and I feel like the standard absolutely needs to be fired. How could this person even be found though? It kind of looks a bit like they're male from their shoe size and kind of clothing, but honestly, who can say? So, a possible male that works at a Burger King somewhere in the world. Turns out though, you can't mess with the mystery beasts at 4chan. The anonymous user had left the geotag in the image file that they uploaded, which meant that a smart reader was able to find out exactly where the image was posted within minutes. Mayfield Heights, Ohio. Minutes later, another user found the branch of the Burger King, 625 Mayfield Road, Cleveland, Ohio, 44124. There was even a phone number. They wrote, "Enjoy getting fired, OP." Someone else contacted the news and another user contacted Burger King. Suffice to say, mystery solved. Idiot fired. Okay. Tell grandma here, but what does OP mean? I don't know. Coming in at number 8, we have the Chili's spitting waitress. This story actually involves a blend of Facebook and 4chan. Now it seems an angry server wrote on Facebook, "Next time you tip me $5 on a $138 bill, don't even bother coming in because I'll spit in your food and then in your face, you cheap bleep." It seems that 4chan user Jimmy Russell's discovered the woman's identity. Obviously it was her Facebook, so he knew her name, but after some sleuthing, he also found out what branch of Chili's she worked at. It seems that 4chan users branded together to contact her employer and link them to her post. So I feel like there are 2 lessons here. 1, do tip your server, but 2, servers, earn your tips. I guess with the kind of attitude that she was expressing on Facebook there, I'm not sure I would have tipped her at all. Sounds like maybe she was a bit mean. Coming into number 7, we have complex mathematics. I really like to try and exercise my brain by reading books every day because I like words more than numbers, although the great thing about numbers is that more people understand them worldwide than words. Mathematics is kind of a universal language, and I think that's pretty cool. So basically, there is a math puzzle that mathematicians have been trying to solve for the past 25 years. So the story here involves an anime series called The Melancholy of Haruhi Sazumaya. I'm really sorry if I pronounced that wrong. So stick with me here. A 4chan user wanted to know the best order to watch a non-linear anime series. They wanted to watch the 14 episodes in every possible order, wondering what the shortest string of episodes would be. Now, one anonymous poster figured out what they had to do, but they accidentally helped puzzle out an issue that mathematicians had been working on since 1993. Now, it's a problem called super permutations. Now, the permutations is the order of a set of numbers, which in this case in the anime was 1 through 14. A super permutation is a rearrangement of those numbers into every possible order that they will go in. When the 4chaners solved the puzzle of how to watch the anime, they also helped solve part of a wider puzzle, and mathematicians wanted to credit them for their work, only they didn't know how because it was 4chan and they were anonymous. Okay, so this is where my explanation needs to stop because actually it's pretty long and complicated, but if you are interested in this particular math puzzle, there is a link in the description box down below. Coming into number 6, we have how to make coupons. Honestly, I think I'd be pretty excited if I figured out how to make my own coupons that actually worked. I'm always searching for like Papa John's coupon codes and stuff like that. Coupons are like pretty magic. They get scanned at a till and you just get money off. Good. I never really thought about how they're made though. I never considered it too much, but it seems that actually then 22-year-old Lucas Henderson figured it all out. He figured out how to make a bunch of counterfeit coupon codes that actually work to get money off. His mistake here though was that he told the rest of 4chan about it. He even uploaded a 45-page tutorial of how to create these coupon codes, so yeah, the police were notified. He was arrested. I've mentioned Papa John's, and now all I want is pizza. Can we take like a mid-list pizza break? Good? Great. Alright, now we've all got pizza, except me. Coming in at number 5, we have the nasty cat lady. I'm gonna show you something that actually might upset you, but don't worry, it does have a happier ending. So a woman was caught on CCTV stopping to pet a cat when she looks around, sees that there's no one around, and places the cat in a wheelie bin. Honestly, like, what an unforgivable monster. Who does that? More importantly, who is that? How will we ever find out? 4chan, friends, that's how. So the footage was posted by a man who found his cat Lola in a bin, and he saw the culprit on his personal CCTV outside his house. Idiot woman, she looked around the street to see if there were any people there, and she didn't notice the camera pointed right at her. Now the guy posted it to YouTube, but somebody else uploaded it to 4chan's B-board to help find the culprit. Within hours, she was outed as 45-year-old Mary Bale of Coventry. The 4chaners even found her name, address, Facebook, and employers. Okay, this actually isn't a 4chan solved mystery up next because they don't use it in China, but I kinda guess it's the Chinese equivalent and it's relevant. Next up, we have the identity of a kitten stamper at number 4. This is actually truly awful, honestly disgusting. In 2006 in China, a woman was photographed stamping on a kitten whilst wearing stiletto heels. The gruesome images were posted on a 4chan style website, after which the police were notified. After that, there was a media frenzy and the website received a lot of hits. Luckily, the many eagle eyes and amateur sleuths of the internet were able to identify the location the pictures were taken in. The stretch of water in the background was found to be Hangzhou, which narrowed the search. Eventually, the woman was found to be Wang Ju, a nurse who claimed she was depressed. Ooh, coming in at number 3, we have the murder of Amber Lynn Coplin. I mean, if you're sick enough to murder an innocent human, then I guess you're sick enough to post about it on the internet, so why am I shocked? I don't know. Anyway, on November 4th, 2014, a 4chan user submitted photographs of a dead woman with an online confession. It seems that he was also taunting police. He wrote, "Check the news, support Orchard, Washington in a few hours. Her son will be home soon. He'll find her, then he'll call the cops." Some 4chaners thought it was fake and even joked about it until, sure enough, a woman matching the images posted was found dead in Kitsap County, Washington, and it was reported on the news. Quickly, police were notified to the 4chan post. Luckily, they had enough evidence to find the culprit, who was David Cal. Side note though, in jail he also tried to kill someone, so he just basically sounds like a bad man. I'm glad he's behind bars. What a sicko. Okay, this one actually has never been solved and it is utterly horrendous. We have the infamous 4chan serial killer at number 2. An anonymous user posted on the site in the mid-2010s claiming to be a serial killer and to have murdered several women. The poster wanted to play a sick guessing game, saying that they would post more pictures of dead girls if users could guess the previous girls' names. Is this? They then posted a picture of a woman who is identified as Shauna Maynard. They posted pictures of her both alive and dead, and lo and behold, she had been missing since 1998. After several posts of their other supposed victims alive and dead, the FBI were contacted. However, the killer has still not yet been found. People of the internet are still poring over the images to try and identify who the other women are. Some people are saying it's a hoax, but honestly, with awful posts on 4chan turning out to be true, it's a mystery that absolutely needs to be solved. Finally, coming into number 1, a bit lighter but also extremely mysterious, we have CICADA 3301. CICADA 3301 is a name given to a mysterious organization that has posted puzzles on 4chan to recruit highly intelligent code breakers. On January the 4th, 2012, 2013, and 2014, codes and clues to a wider puzzle were posted on the 4chan site. The puzzle has been hailed as the most elaborate and mysterious of the internet age. It seems that crypto security researcher Joel Erickson solved the first challenge using steganography and an understanding of ancient Mayan numerology. That was a mouthful and also extremely niche. Erickson said that he would receive anonymous phone calls and strange GPS coordinates as he went on solving the puzzles. Unfortunately, he didn't solve the mysteries in time, so he still never found out who or what CICADA is. A lot of people presume that it's the CIA or MI6. Erickson even thinks that some people did solve the mystery and are now out there bound to secrecy. Coming in at number 10, we have fast radio bursts. Fast radio bursts were first discovered in 2007 and are powerful radio pulses that emit more energy in 1 millisecond than the sun does all day. While researchers think they are a regular occurrence, we have only picked up the short bursts a dozen or so times in the past 12 years. The issue is that they tend to happen just once, although we may have found one that repeats itself sporadically. Looking at this will allow researchers to get a better look at it. Now, the burst has been named FRB121102. Of course, catchy. This specific burst comes from 3 billion light years away and is 500 times greater than the others recorded. With FRBs getting attention, we are closer to finding out exactly what's causing them and where they're coming from.
Next up at number 9 now, we have the post-it notes. In 2015, Reddit user R.Bradbury1920 posted to Reddit saying that he kept finding post-it notes in his apartment reminding him to do errands that he had told nobody else about. He was seriously freaked out but found no signs of a break-in. It kept happening though, so he asked Reddit to help him solve it. Reddit user KATELYN made the suggestion that perhaps he was the one leaving the notes and just not remembering. He suggested it could be mental health, but also it could be a carbon monoxide leak. This odorless gas can have serious effects on people's brains and will cause death if levels are high enough. He replied by saying that he was having pretty bad headaches and that he'd set up his carbon monoxide detector right away. It was a good job he did that because that was the problem. The level had reached a dangerous 100 ppm, causing him to black out and forget that he wrote the post-it notes. Mystery solved, but even more importantly I think, a life saved. Coming in number 8 now, we have the nail through the wood. One day a Reddit user posted this image to Reddit. That's a nail going through a piece of wood, but how did it get there? As you can see, there is no hole on the piece on the left. How did the nail end up going through the other pieces? The user who posted it said he found it on a hiking trip. He said there was no visual trickery involved and the wood was just one solid block, no glue. Reddit was stumped. Nobody could figure out how it was achieved. And then, on November 21st, 2009, woodworker Steve Ramsey uploaded a video to show the solution. He made the block, soaked the end piece in boiling water, and then used a clamp to push it down enough so that he could nail a hole into the next block. Then he simply soaked it again to make it take its original form. Incredibly simple and very impressive work by him. The video is currently sitting at over 20 million views. Alright, this next one is really freaky and I would hate it if it happened to me. Moving on to number 7 now, we have the SIM card. In 2013, Reddit user ShadyBusiness15 posted pictures to Reddit showing his extension cord which had blown a fuse. Now when he took it apart, he found a SIM card with a serial number on it. What? Yeah, I would freak out too. Reddit users realized there was actually a microphone attached to the device. He was being bugged. Every time someone rang that SIM card's number, it was then listening to the whole room. He called the number on the SIM card and an automated message said, "The service is now closed. If you have voicemail, you can turn it on." He then called O2, the SIM card's manufacturer, who told him that he'd need a warrant to find out who owned that number. Well, the mystery was solved of what exactly the device was. Now they just need to figure out who put it there. Next up at number 6 now, we have Hit and Run. In 2013, Reddit user Meathead posted an image of a broken tail light from a car that had been involved in a hit and run. He wanted to identify who the driver was. Not much to go on, really, with just a tiny bit of a tail light. 400 Reddit comments poured in and eventually they identified the tail light belonged to a grey 1991 Cadillac Braun. He went to the police with that information and they were able to match it to a stolen vehicle. With this lead, they found the hit and run driver and then laid charges on him or her. I don't know. Maybe Reddit can figure out the gender from the taillight too. Alright, at number 5 now, we have the Cypher. In 2012, a Reddit user posted saying that a homeless man had given him $50 with markings on it and a note covered in some sort of strange code. Redditors quickly identified it as a bifid cipher, a message scrambled using a square grid system. They decoded it to read, "There's plenty more money to make, figure this out, and prepare to meet." Very spooky and cryptic. It also gave the address of a hot dog stand and told him to go there and ask for Mr. Input. And then he got another message threatening him because he tried to get Reddit to help him. Soon after, the original poster deleted his initial post after claiming he was now getting death threats and his family were too. The Reddit hunt continued though, and the theories for this now range from recruitment for the Department of Defense to some sort of elaborate marketing campaign for a local spy museum. Some people say this is solved, while others say that that's exactly what Mr. Input wants you to think. Next up at number 4 now, we have the Strongsville Jane Doe. In 1975, 3 boys found a skeleton by a river in Ohio. It was identified as belonging to an 18 to 25-year-old woman who had been shot in the head some 5 months before her discovery. Detectives hit a dead end on identifying who she was, and it just became another cold case. Fast forward to 2015, where Reddit user Call Me Ice decided to do some digging on the case herself. She managed to obtain the original autopsy report, including a photo of the woman's skull. She then enlisted the help of a forensic scientist to create this facial reconstruction. A while later, they found this image of a 17-year-old Linda Pagano who went missing in September 1974 after an argument with her stepfather. They contacted the medical examiner's office, who say they were already working on that exact match. Shortly after, Linda's sister confirmed that the skeleton did belong to Linda. The Reddit community praised user Call Me Ice for her incredible initiative and detective work. Moving on to number 3 now, we have Stonehenge. In 2011, Reddit users noticed that someone had created a strange subreddit with a long string of numbers and letters and was just dumping weird code into it. Thousands of Redditors tried to figure out what this code all meant. Eventually, one Reddit user called Fraglet decided to put his programming skills to good use. He decoded one of the posts to reveal it was actually a picture of Stonehenge drawn in ASC2 art. Other posts were decoded to read things like Happy New Year 2001 and also what looked like coordinates in North Korea. Eventually, the whole subreddit was just closed. Most of the code was never even decoded. On the one hand, it was a victory to even uncode just some of it, but many users still want to figure out what the whole thing was about. Coming in at number 2 now, we have Grateful Doe. In 1995, a hitchhiker was killed in a car accident in Virginia. Because of his injuries, police were unable to identify who he was. They found a note on his body referring to him as Jason from 2 women called Caroline T and Caroline O. The police were completely lost on this one. Almost 20 years went by and nobody had solved the mystery. Then, in 2014, Reddit user Zombie Gray, real name Layla Betts, began to research the cold case herself. A whole community sprung up on Reddit to help her. She posted digitally recreated pictures of the hitchhiker. Then she was contacted by a man who said the images looked a lot like his roommate Jason Callahan, who he hadn't seen since 1995. That's when they realized they were onto something. Incredibly, Jason's mother saw these pictures online at the same time. They were able to contact the Virginia Medical Examiner's Office to do a DNA comparison between the hitchhiker and Jason's mother. Sure enough, it was a match. Layla Betts, with the help of the larger Reddit community, had solved a 20-year-old cold case and brought closure to Jason's family. And finally at number 1 now, we have the box of crazy. In 2013, Reddit user TramStopDan posted images of a box that he found in the trash. What he found inside was this weird collection of posters, illustrations, maps, and personal belongings. Some of the text and pictures made references to alien invasions and trains with animal faces. The pages were so intricately detailed. This was obviously done by someone who took the work very seriously. Eventually, Reddit's investigation led them to a man named Daniel Christensen, a Danish immigrant to the US who has since died. They found out that Daniel had become obsessed with the book of Ezekiel from the Bible. Couple that with his apparent schizophrenia, and the book appears to be his belief in the Bible as proof of aliens visiting Earth. The case was then closed as solved. However, for the people who said this was a government cover-up the whole time, this only added fuel to the fire. What do you guys think of this one?
Coming in at number 10, we have CICADA3301. If we were to spend this video looking at the mysteries of the internet, it would literally never end. Internet mysteries pop up faster than we can whack them down, and CICADA3301 is one of the biggest ones out there. It's essentially a puzzle that anyone out there can try and solve, and people are actually encouraged to solve. It has a lot to do with data security, so being able to crack the code would require some serious hacking skills. But this has been a massive puzzle that has been sitting out on the internet since 2012. And thanks to the hive mind of Reddit, several people have been able to make it to the end of this puzzle, and if you yourself want to try and crack the code, you can use some of the links that are on Reddit to help you get through your journey. As crazy as the Reddit community can seem at times, it's actually one of the most helpful that you can come across. Everyone has been able to solve some small problem with the step-by-step help of a Reddit forum. Now, the mystery still stands as to who made this thing. Some people think that it could be a recruitment tool created by the CIA to try and draw people in. So if you make it to the end of this problem, maybe you get a job out of it.
Coming in at number 9 is the Yogurt Shop, December 6, 1991. Firefighters were rushing to the scene of a fire blazing inside a I can't believe it's yogurt shop in Austin, Texas. When they finally got there, the men found the dead bodies of 4 young girls in the back of the store. 2 were identified as employees, 17-year-old Jennifer Harbison and Eliza Thomas, 13-year-old Amy Ayers, and Harbison's younger sister Sarah. It looked like they had planned a sleepover at the shop after closing up, but they were found bound and gagged and all shot in the head. Eventually 4 men were arrested in connection to the murder, 2 of which actually confessed, but then rumors started going around that the confessions were forced. The 2 that confessed were convicted and the other 2 had their charges dropped. However, in 2009, both arrested men were released after lack of evidence against them. There was only 1 piece of DNA found at the crime scene and it belonged to none of the 4 men. Most of the evidence was most likely lost in the fire, but as of February of this year, it was revealed that the FBI could have the key to solving the case, but they're refusing to release that information due to privacy concerns. The single strand of DNA found can't be used to identify a single suspect, but it could point to a person's male lineage, and this is known as family tree forensics. So my guesses are the FBI know the family of the man who killed the girls, but based on ethics don't want to reveal it to the families involved. But when was the last time the FBI didn't do something because it was unethical? At number 8 we have Julia Woodward. Back in 1979, 21-year-old Julia Woodward was at a San Francisco airport terminal hoping to find a job near Lake Tahoe. She was originally from San Rafael and was last seen at the airport. 2 months after she went missing, her skeletal remains were found and it seemed like she'd been hit in the head with a large rock. Her legs were zip-tied, she had been gagged, band-aids covered her eyes, and there was hair and blood everywhere. 40 years later, DNA on her pants led officers to murderer Charles Gary Sullivan. His attorney claimed that he must have slept with her, but that doesn't mean he killed her. But according to the Deputy Attorney General, the crime fits Gary's pattern since he was a prime suspect in 2 other murders where the bodies were found close to Julia's. When investigators started getting more interested in him, he fled Reno and changed his appearance. In 2007, he kidnapped and raped a girl in Nevada and was charged for it, so the pattern is definitely there, as is the evidence. Gary's lawyer filed a motion to withdraw from his defense, but Gary remains in custody and his trial is next January. So this case will legitimately get solved next year, which, I mean, woohoo. Filling at number 7 slot is LILLIE Oglesby. 69-year-old evangelist and mother of 8 was found brutally murdered in her own home back in May of 2004. LILLIE had no known enemies and her children claimed that she was always very cautious and would keep all of her doors locked. Her son Dal went on to say she would not open the door for someone she didn't know, implying the killer was an acquaintance of hers or maybe even a friend. On that dreadful night, LILLIE's son Vernon decided to check on his mum as he left work, but when he got to the house at around 9 PM, the front door was ajar and the storm door was also unlocked. The TV was on but the living room was empty, so he then went to his parents' bedroom to find his mum in a pool of her own blood by her bed. She had died from multiple blunt force trauma and the case remained cold all these years. Recently, however, a retired detective asked Officer Tackett to relook at the case, and now she's rereading all the notes and submitting new DNA evidence. Forensic DNA investigation was only in its infancy back then, but now it's a lot more advanced. Tackett also tracked down friends, the family's neighbors at the time, and more. My bet is on the DNA evidence getting a match or link on the database, which will hopefully lead them to the killer. Now at number 6 is KATELYN Markham. Back in August of 2011, 21-year-old KATELYN Markham vanished from her home in Fairfield, only for her remains to be found in a wooded area 2 years later. Her dad Dave put out a public plea to Butler County Sheriff Richard Jones, asking him to reopen his daughter's unsolved case, claiming the Fairfield police just did an inadequate job. The sheriff said he would relook at the case and it has since been active. The team is hoping that looking at the case with a fresh set of eyes will reveal something that was missed before. Now there are 3 possible theories to explain her death: accidental, homicidal, or drug overdose. The coroner ruled her death a homicide. PI J. Ryan Green was hired to work on her case, and he revealed that a new piece of evidence has been found and is being processed for DNA, but nothing further can be publicly said. These cases just leave you on the edge of your seat literally because you don't know what's gonna happen. Coming Coming in at number 5 is Erica Baker. 21 years ago, 9-year-old Erica Baker vanished from Miami Valley, never to be seen again. Sergeant Bob Green and cold case detective Vincent Mason turned the cold case back into an open and active case as they tried to crack down and find out exactly where her remains are. Christian Gabriel confessed to accidentally hitting Erica with his van near an intersection in Kettering. Christian and his passenger Jan Franks both had criminal backgrounds and didn't want to call the police, so they shoved Erica inside the van and took off. He served 6 years in prison for that and was released in 2011 and is still refusing to say what he did to her. Officers are trying to put as much pressure as they can on Christian to reveal the information, to the point of trying to see if they can get another warrant for him just to scare him into confessing. Would he rather confess or go to jail for however many more years? At number 4 is Xavier Dupont de Leron. I know I mentioned this case in a recent video, but updates have been made, so I thought I would share. Back in April of 2011, the family's neighbor got suspicious when the Lerons' home was boarded up and decided to call the police. The family was nowhere to be found until a letter came saying they had fled to the US since they were DEA agents. That was fake, and after several police visits to the house, the bodies of the wife Agnes, the 4 kids and 2 dogs were all found buried in their garden. Xavier's body was not there, and neither was his car. Everyone had been shot by a rifle that Xavier had inherited from his dad only 3 weeks prior. Apparently he was under crippling debt and had no money left, and as a count, he didn't want his children or the public to know the family was ruined. He didn't want his kids to suffer any hardships either, so apparently he thought killing them was the best thing to do. After he fled, he didn't even hide. He was still using his credit card at places and waved at a security camera in southeastern France before taking off with his rifle. If he did commit suicide, the body was never found, but if he fled, he's still wanted. Tips have been pouring in at left, right, and center about this case, and one seemed to catch everyone's attention. Someone sent in a photo of who they believed to be Xavier in Chicago. The man looked so much like him, but you could tell he had some sort of facial work done. So now that the search has been narrowed down to one city, the ball is really rolling. How can someone just kill their entire family and just still sleep at night? Filling at number 3 slot is 13 Minutes, April 15th, 2004. Hairdresser Patrice Andrews is working a regular day at his salon Tambus Trim and Tan located in Georgia. After a customer called to cancel their upcoming appointment, there was a 13-minute window in which no one knows what happened, but it was believed that's when Patrice went missing. Despite long searches taking place, her body was found 600 days later, 11 miles from the salon. The body was found without her wedding ring, meaning whoever has it is our perpetrator. So the case went from a missing person's case to a murder investigation ASAP Rocky. Now in the Unsolved Mysteries episode, we see her husband Rob talk about their marriage being quite happy. Patrice's son Pistol, who she had from a previous partner, said the two were having trouble and that Rob was quite a jealous man. After Patrice disappeared, Rob locked Pistol out of the house since the two just didn't get along. Despite having an alibi, Rob said things like he carried around her skull for hours and slept with her ashes. Her friends claim she hadn't been acting normal in the days prior to her disappearance, and viewers think the case can be solved with investigation into the cancelled appointment. Was it on purpose? Did that person cancel so Patrice could be alone for those 13 minutes? Submitted tips are forcing the direction of the case towards that, so hopefully the case will be solved sooner than we think. Now at number 2 is Nancy Theobald, November 17th, 1977. Nancy was a student at the University of Cincinnati at the time, and that day she was on her way home from a shift at Arby's. She was never seen again until a month later when her body was found near a creek near Beckett Road. Her arms were bound with rope, as was her neck, and she was partially naked. Heavy interrogations were done at the time of the crime, but unfortunately no arrests were made. These days, Butler County Sheriff Detective Joe Ventre has been working on the case and shared that based on previous evidence, new tests are being done and that he was not allowed to elaborate further than that. I hope that the new tests bring up some sort of results, because that poor family has been living with the worst case scenarios in their heads for 43 years. It's time to end their suffering. And finally, at number 1 is the Bear Brook case. Back in 1985, 2 bodies were found wrapped in plastic bags inside some barrels at Bear Brook State Park. And then fast forward to 2000, another 2 bodies were found. They were all either completely or partially skeletonized, but DNA profiling concluded that the woman was the mother of the youngest and oldest bodies found, and the 4th child is still unidentified, but rumored to be serial killer Terrence Rasmussen's daughter. In 2017, the woman was identified to be Denise Bowden, who had been missing missing since 1981 along with her daughter and boyfriend Bob Evans. DNA confirmed that a Robert Evans was the father of the middle body, but that was not his real name, and Denise wasn't the woman's real name either. Evans was soon exposed as serial killer Terry Rasmussen, aka the Chameleon Killer. Turns out the woman was Marilise Elizabeth Honeychurch, and she had been missing from La Puente since 1978. She had 2 kids at the time and was dating Rasmussen. That year, around the time of her disappearance, she had left her home after arguing with her mum and never contacted her family again, because she was dead. Now it's unclear if Terry is the one who killed them or who the mother of the 4th child is, but advanced DNA testing is being used to help finally close the case.
Okay, starting off at number 10 now, we have Webdriver Torso. In 2013, a YouTube channel was created called Webdriver Torso. All it did was upload videos like this. Reddit users jumped on it. Theories range from the ridiculous, such as aliens, to the intriguing, such as spy communication. Eventually, a number of Reddit users came up with the answer to this whole mystery, including a blogger who made the most detailed description of it. It turns out that YouTube itself had set up the channel to test the quality of their videos. The actual content of the video is meaningless, hence the random sounds and visuals, but by comparing that video with the original file, YouTube can see how good their uploading system is for video quality. Google later confirmed that this was the case. Shame it's not aliens or spies though.
In our 9th spot today, we have the missing leg. On April 19th, 1995, at 9:02 a.m., a bomb was detonated inside of a truck by a federal building in Oklahoma City. Sadly, 168 people lost their lives as a result of this attack. Now, while investigators were working on this case, they came across a detached leg in a military boot. They originally thought that the leg belonged to one of the victims, Lakeisha Levy. However, she was buried with both her legs, so it couldn't have been hers. In fact, her body was actually exhumed and analyzed. But because her body was embalmed, taking DNA tests from the leg she was originally buried with wasn't possible. So it's not known whose leg this belongs to. Was it Lakeisha's leg? If so, then who does the leg that she was buried with belong to? Investigators either think it's another victim or an additional terrorist. But to this day, nothing has been confirmed. In our 8th spot, we have the Copper Scroll treasure. In 1952, a copper scroll was found alongside other Dead Sea Scrolls in a cave. Now, this scroll was quite interesting. As its name suggests, the writing was engraved onto a copper scroll. When translated, it apparently talks about a bunch of hidden treasure. Now, this scroll is over 1900 years old. During that time, the Romans might have been out to capture the treasure, so they hid it in order to prevent them from finding it. So maybe this scroll is a key in finding the treasure. The question is the treasure real? Will we ever find it? And if it is real, then where is it hidden? In at number 7, we have the human feet. Since 2007, around 20 dismembered human feet have washed up on the coast of Salish Sea in British Columbia, Canada. What's weird is that the feet are often found still perfectly inside of their laced shoes, and investigators still don't know what to think. A couple of the feet have been identified, like one belonged to a missing male, one belonged to a missing fisherman, the other belonged to a woman that jumped off of a bridge. So it's believed that these feet belong to victims of terrible accidents or belong to people who took their own life. It's still very strange, like why have so many feet washed up in the same area? Now, police ruled out foul play, but some people believe that these people were gang members or victims of sacrifice. In our 6th spot, we have the farm murders. On March 31st of 1922, 6 family members were killed with a pickaxe on a farm. What's weird is that the murderer lived on the farm for 6 days after taking the lives of the family. The killer was taking care of the cattle and using their kitchen to cook meals for themselves. When police did find the bodies, the killer had already fled. Now, what makes this case scary and more chilling is that a previous maid said that she recently quit because she thought that the house was haunted. She heard voices and footsteps coming from the attic. So police think that the killer was living in the attic for quite some time before committing these crimes. To this day, the murderer has never been found. The files were sealed in 1955 and the house was eventually demolished. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Big Gray Man. The Big Gray Man is said to be a cryptid that haunts the summit of Ben Macdui. located in Scotland. Some people think that it's just a legend, whereas other people have actually seen this creature. It's said to be an extremely tall, human-like creature, being over 10 feet tall, with short hair and broad shoulders, with long arms. Needless to say, you don't want to encounter him. But like I said, there's been so many eyewitness reports that many think this beast is indeed real. To this day, scientists still haven't been able to come up with an explanation for the sightings. In our fourth spot, we have the Oak Island Mystery. The Oak Island Mystery is a 200-year-old legend that insists that pirate treasure is buried on Oak Island in Nova Scotia. Multiple attempts have been made to discover this treasure, however, none have been successful. In fact, several people have died trying to unearth this mystery. People believe that the treasure contains William Shakespeare's original manuscripts, Marie Antoinette's jewels, and other artifacts worth millions of dollars. Named the Money Pit, the supposed spot for the treasure is over 200 feet deep and is filled with booby traps to prevent anyone from reaching the treasure. The question is this legend true, and will we ever unearth some treasure? Because so far, nothing has been found on Oak Island. In our third spot today, we have the Bigfoot. For sure, you have all seen that infamous blurry photo of the Bigfoot, walking, but is he actually real? Well, over the years, there have been a number of credible sightings of this beast, leading many to believe that he is indeed real. Take Michael Green, for example. He is a former US Army tank commander and fraud investigator who ended up encountering Bigfoot. Why would someone of that rank lie about Bigfoot? During a camping trip in a North Carolina forest, he claims he encountered this beast. He said that he woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of something approaching his tent. Soon, it was directly over his tent and let out a deafening roar that, I quote, scared the devil out of him. He claims that this beast was about 7.5 or 8 feet tall and striding with ponderous arm swings. He truly believes that this was Bigfoot. So could it be that the Bigfoot is indeed real? Let me know what you think. In our second spot, we have the woman who named her killer. Now, this case is the definition of bizarre. Now, this case has been solved, but how it was solved still remains a complete mystery. Let me explain. So in 1977, a woman named Teresita Bassa was murdered and her jewelry was stolen. Police tried finding the perpetrator and the jewelry, but it was unsuccessful. That was until Bassa's coworker, Remy Cho, got in contact with her ghost. So Remy hardly knew her, okay? Then she just randomly started having visions about her. She kept seeing this man's face behind Bassa. So she decided to try and actually contact her from the dead. She sat down with her husband and actually channeled her spirit. She took control of Remy's body and told her husband the entire story of her murder. It was done by a man named Alan Showery. The two went to the police with this information and they investigated Alan and he was arrested for the crime. Isn't that wild? Like, literally, she got in contact with her spirit and the spirit told her how to die. Like, this whole story is just one big mystery. And in our number one spot today, we have the Dyatlov Pass incident. Now, this is one case that keeps me up at night. So in February of 1959, a group of 9 experienced hikers set out to travel the snowy mountains of Siberia. However, they all ended up mysteriously dying one by one. So during the night, something caused them to cut their way out of their tent and flee the campsite. The hikers were not properly dressed. Some were even found completely naked. Some had died from hypothermia, others were killed by physical trauma, and it was very gruesome. So what happened that night? Was it an animal attack? Military involvement? Infrared sound-induced panic? These are all some of the wild theories out there. But to this day, we still don't know the truth behind this incident.
Coming in at number 10, we have Jenna's Justice. Jenna Jameson is a retired adult film star and glamour model turned writer and TV personality. She's been around for many years and has garnered quite a few fans, as I'm sure you can imagine. She's worth quite a lot of money and has the luxury of being able to employ a staff. It seems, however, a jilted former employee of Jameson's stole from her and hacked her social media. They hijacked her Instagram and other accounts and and began deleting photos. She took to 4chan's B forum and asked for help tracking the person down. She explained that the man may have given her false ID when she hired him. She asked 4chan to go easy on her and not to ask her for nudes in exchange for help, which is fair, right? Sure enough, 4chan found him. They found his address, his driving license number, his social security number, and his credit score, all within an hour. Jenna rewarded the finders with sultry snaps. Of course she did. Good on you. Coming in at number 9, we have the void in the pyramid. The Great Pyramids of Giza are still quite the mystery, and the plot has only thickened since the Heritage Innovation Preservation and the University of Cairo teamed up to scan the pyramids. Yes, scan the pyramids. Have we gone too far? You see, archaeologists are wary of actually disturbing the architecture of intact pyramids, but without doing so, they have no idea what's inside. I think they're just trying to avoid unleashing a new ancient curse. Very strangely, the pyramid housing the tomb of the great pharaoh Khufu showed a very strange void when it was scanned. Built in around 2560 BC, this mystery void has been locked away and secret for over 4,000 years. By scanning the pyramid with cosmic rays, the team behind the research estimate that the void of 98 feet long and 50 feet high, which actually makes it very, very big. It seems this void is completely sealed off from any known passageways inside the pyramid, so there's no way to get to it, leading the question, how is it even built? Well, these are the questions intriguing everyone, and it seems the mystery is on the cusp of being solved by none other than robot drones. Yes, robot drones! In order to minimize damage to the ancient structure, a team will drill a small hole and send in little robots to explore. I mean, how many more mysteries can be solved by deploying spy robots? Like, I'm here for it. Coming into number 8, we have the Zodiac killer Cyphers. The Zodiac killer is the name given to an unidentified murderer active in North California from the late 1960s to the early 1970s. The murderer took the lives of 5 people but claims to have killed 37. The killer gets their name from a series of ciphers sent to press publications. The first cipher was 408 characters long and was decoded by a history teacher and his wife. It began, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It's more fun than killing wild game in the forest." It was incorrectly spelled, but it was very creepy anyway. That was the only cipher to be cracked, although in 2011 it was thought the second cipher was close to being solved. Others say it's impossible though, as it may be total gibberish. Either way, as time moves on, it seems more and more likely that we will find the killer. In 2018, the Golden State's killer identity was revealed as 72-year-old Navy veteran and former police officer Joseph James DeAngelo. It took 40 years to find him, but better DNA technology came through in the end. With this in mind, I wouldn't write off the Zodiac killer just yet. Speaking of murder cases, coming in at number 7, we have the Steven Avery case. The first season of Making a Murderer came out in 2015 and the second part was released in 2018. They both got a lot of coverage. Both shed serious doubt on Steven Avery's conviction for the murder of Teresa Holbach. Avery, as we know from the show, was wrongly convicted of sexual assault and attempted murder and served 18 years in jail for a crime that he simply didn't commit. A lot of holes have been found in the murder case against him, and his so-called accomplice, Brendan Dassey, had his conviction overturned on the grounds of confession as a result of coercion. Avery has a hotshot lawyer, Kathleen Zellner. Right now there is a lot of attention being put into getting to the bottom of what actually happened to Teresa, and I think that we are just months, if not I guess maybe years away from finding out what really happened. Making a Murderer Season 3 is gonna be juicy. Coming into number 6, we have the mystery of Flight MH370. Every day we get closer to finding out what happened to missing Flight 3H70 that disappeared en route from Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia to Beijing in China. Now the plane went missing 5 years ago, I can't believe it's been that long, and fragments of the wreckage have purportedly been found, although there is no certainty that it definitely belonged to the plane. Well, it seems that now a $70 million ocean search has been launched by a Texan company called Ocean Infinity. The mission is scanning 500 square miles of sea a day in a 3-month search. Now some people think that the plane never crashed at all and was hijacked and landed. There are still a lot of top analysts looking into the disappearance, and I do have a strong feeling that time will tell on this one. Getting hairy at number 5, we have the Yeti. Last year researchers announced that they were getting closer to discovering the truth behind rumours of the seemingly mythical Yeti, or the abominable snowman, or the Sasquatch, whichever name you fancy going with. It seems that multiple DNA samples thought to have been left by a Yeti are being examined, and so far, most have been linked to a species of Asian bear. The creature has been prominent in folklore since the 1900s, but more reasonable DNA readings may render the beast the stuff of legends once and for all. Coming in at number 4, we have the Bermuda Triangle. Is the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle on the cusp of being solved? John F. Mayer certainly thinks so, and he has been searching for lost Flight 19 for over 30 years. He has written a book about it too, and thinks that 2 of the missing planes crashed around Sebastian in Florida, and the other 3 crashed in the ocean around Daytona Beach. In a recent interview, he said, "Every day the technology, the detection equipment gets bigger, better and cheaper, and more folks are getting out there. They will find these airplanes." The Bermuda Triangle has been linked to a number of disappearances of a number of aircraft and boats. Now, British scientists believe that the cause is a giant rogue wave, although that wouldn't affect aircraft. Others just say the entire area is prone to bad weather. Coming in at number 3, taking it to my home country, we have Stonehenge. Stonehenge is a collection of monoliths that were erected somehow 5,000 years ago. Until recently, how and why the monument was built at a time before humans seemingly had the ability to haul such huge pieces of rock has been a mystery and a topic for great debate. We didn't even know where exactly the rocks came from until recently. It is thought that they were dragged from a quarry in West Wales, and the monument was built in 4 stages. It has now been revealed that the bodies found near Stonehenge likely came from Wales too, so had they gone on some kind of stony pilgrimage? It seems that finally a new study conducted by researchers from the University of Oxford has unearthed that stone highways were used to transport the stones to the Salisbury Plains. While we still don't know exactly why the monument was built, we are getting a lot closer to unlocking the mysteries. Coming into number 2, we have the disappearance of Amelia Earhart. The missing case of Amelia Earhart has stumped people for years. The female aviator made her name by being the first female to fly solo across the Atlantic, and she even received the Distinguished Flying Cross. She was also an author who wrote about her flying experiences, inspiring many more to follow in her footsteps. Unfortunately, the pioneer pilot went missing in 1937 amid an attempt to fly around the globe in one swoop. She was well known in her day and had set many flying records, so when she disappeared, it was massive news. Many people went to look for her. She disappeared along with her navigator Fred Noonan over the Pacific Ocean near Howland Island. Until very recently, her death was quite the mystery, with many people generating wild theories. Some say she crashed into the ocean and died, others say she landed safely but was taken prisoner by the Japanese, who are hostile towards Americans ahead of World War II. Others say that she became part of a tribe. Well, it seems that modern DNA analysis may have the answer. Bones found on the island of Nikamaro have finally been linked to the pilot. They had originally been written off, but now testing so far actually points that they might be Earhart's. If they are hers, we will know that she died as a castaway. Okay, my favourite mystery at number 1, we have a space mystery. It's Mars. I really love starting and ending a list with space, because to me space is one of the greatest mysteries of them all. While we may be a long while off proving the Big Bang, we're just moments away from unlocking the secrets to Mars, and what a mystery that is. Humans first touched down on the moon 50 years ago, and since then we've been unlocking the secrets of space as fast as we can. After humans landed on the moon, we set our sights on our closest neighbour, Mars. We sadly lost contact with the last of our Mars rovers Opportunity earlier this year, but we have a brand new rover mission planned for 2020, and we hope to have a manned mission by the year 2030. The more research we do and the more data we get back from Mars, the closer we get to understanding what is going on over there. Some conspiracists think that there is an ancient civilization out there, and I guess that we'll find out.